Hi, hey, how you doing? It's Jim, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, once again, I'm not by myself. I have a guest with me today. I'd like to introduce to you the one and only Ray Hearne from Haken. Hey, Ray, how you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks so much for coming on. It's I can't quite believe you. I'm talking to you. This is quite a thing. I've been following the band Haken for about 3 years, and was I think immediately blown away by the complexity and the interesting playing that you're doing with the drums, and it's just astonishing. I'm absolutely loving it. Where did you start with your drum journey, or your music journey for that matter?
Well, my music journey starts on the piano when I was about, I don't know, 7 or 8, I think, something like that. My two sisters had already, my two older sisters had already started the piano, and were taking weekly lessons, and I was kind of just wondering where they were going every Saturday evening. I kind of wanted to get involved, so joined them, and I don't know how long I took lessons for, maybe till I was something like 15 or 16. Went through a couple of teachers, and went through the grades and kind of did all that, and it was quite a slog, to be quite honest. I'm not going to say I loved the piano. Found it really difficult. But when I was about, I don't know, not too much older, maybe 9 or 10 or something, I took up the euphonium after a brass band came and played at my school, and I was just kind of mesmerised by the big shiny instruments. And
where did you grow up?
Up in North London, in Southgate.
Okay.
Yeah, in Enfield. So I don't know who the band was that came in. They were probably just a little brass quintet. Needless to say, the biggest, shiniest instrument of them all was the one I wanted to play, but the one I couldn't because it was too big. So it wasn't until I was about 12 maybe that I started playing the tuba, which is around the same sort of time that I started playing the drums as well. And the drums was almost an accident. I signed up for lessons when I started secondary school, and I was told there was a massive long waiting list, and I kind of got the impression, okay, that's not going to happen then, I'll forget about that. But yeah, one day I got a note in the register saying, come for your drum lesson on Wednesday. I was like, what? Forgot I even wanted to play the drums. I was hooked basically from the first lesson. Just absolutely loved it.
Wow.
And here I am.
Fantastic. I never had, when I was young, formal drum kit lessons. It wasn't ever offered at our school, but I remember me and my friends, we all had this moment of sort of like a road to Damascus moment. So we went home one evening and saw Top of the Pops, Iron Maiden were playing on there. It was Number of the Beast. So
nice.
It was back in the day, and we all came back into school the next day. We want to do this. This is what we want to do. And because there was no sort of contemporary music lessons being offered, we all decided, well, we're going to have to take up the nearest thing. So two of us took up violins, because that's quite close to being a guitar. It was strings. Mm-hmm. Someone else took up, I think it was the tuba or something, because that was like bassy. And then I said, well, I'll do orchestral percussion. So I learned to play timpani and xylophone. I'd done piano lessons and what have you in the past, but so we were all sort of quite musical, and then we ended up buying our own instruments and just teaching ourselves how to play. So I never had formal lessons back in the day, and actually more recently, when I have had drum kit lessons, I've got so many bad habits because I've just done it the way that I want to do it, and it's the way that's easy, but it means it's held me back.
You kind of have to have that element of self-tuition when, because that's kind of the best way to develop, and you kind of can learn what you want to learn and play what you want to play, rather than be told what to do and what to play and what to practice. It's so you kind of need that. I teach so many young kids these days, and just sort of getting an answer out of them about what kind of music they listen to and what they might like to play on the drums is just so difficult, and it's made so much easier when they say, I want to play this song, or I like this band. and suddenly you can sort of, gear their tuition towards what they want to do rather than what you want them to do.
Do you think it's a fear they have that you might judge them for the music they're listening to? I think when I was younger, it might have been that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
When I was like 7 or 8, I said, I like status quo. I don't dare tell anybody.
I know. It's weird, isn't it? There's that kind of embarrassment about it when you're that age, but eventually, you batter it out of them.
Excellent. So I guess you've been doing quite a lot of teaching during the course of the pandemic.
Absolutely, yeah. Because obviously, we had so many tours lined up last year. We either had to sort of postpone or cancel them. Just kind of making, I guess, my sort of teaching services available to Haken fans wasn't something I had thought about much before, aside from when we go on tour and we teach 1 or 2 people at each city if we get a chance.
Oh, right, okay.
But yeah, offering it up to people online sort of on a weekly basis, dotted all over the globe, wasn't something I'd considered doing before. But it's been an absolute lifesaver, obviously from a financial point of view, but kind of even more so. It's been so great to meet so many people from different walks of life, different cultures, different parts of their sort of musical journey, and try and help them through that in some way.
Wow. And is it something you plan to continue doing?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've been teaching several of the people that I'm teaching now. I've been teaching more or less since the beginning of the pandemic, and we've been having either weekly or fortnightly lessons. And yeah, the sort of the rate of development and just the relationship that we've sort of developed between each other as well has just been fantastic. So yeah, I wouldn't really want it to end at this point. It's great.
No. Oh, yeah. Cool. And are the pupils working towards grades, or are they working towards just wanting to learn some songs, or is it all different sorts of stuff? Yeah,
most of the I guess I kind of think of my teaching almost as, half of my students are kind of Haken students, and they come to learn from me specifically and learn about my sort of expertise relating to what I do on a daily basis with Haken, and then you've got the other half who are kids at a school, and they kind of just see me as the drum teacher at the school rather than the drummer in Haken. So I guess with the school kids, a lot of it is more grade driven because that's what parents want. Mm-hmm. Often, sometimes they don't, and that's nice as well because that kind of takes the pressure off. And then with all the Haken students, it's much more kind of specific to, I really want to learn this particular song, or I want to learn how to play in 15/16, or how do you write your songs, how do you record, how do you, all sorts of things like that. And then even with some of those, I kind of work through some graded material as well, if that's what they want to do, or if they happen to have another teacher they're working through stuff with. So, yeah.
Awesome. How did you end up meeting up with the guys from Haken? Did you know each other before the band, or was it literally you saw an advert in the post office window? Or
yeah, so it was back in the days of, I guess it was back in the days of MySpace. I was about 15 or 16. I remember MySpace. My old band troubled the charts in MySpace once or twice. Yeah, and I was at school with a guy called Pete Jones. We were best mates all the way up through school, playing in countless bands together, singing in the choir, playing in the orchestra, just constantly doing something musical at school. Yeah. And he turned me on to Dream Theater amongst, many other bands. Him and his brother basically are responsible for most of my musical education, to be quite honest, just by telling me to listen to certain bands when I was at that kind of formative part of my life. Yeah. And then, Pete saw something in, I think it was on the Dream Theater forum about a band looking for a keyboard player who were kind of, going for that Dream Theater vibe. And he went and sort of joined them. And from that point, I was just like, oh man, I wish they were looking for a drummer. This would be perfect. But they kind of had a drummer at that point. They recorded a tune with him. And not long afterwards, they thought, actually, he's not the guy we want. At which point Pete said, "Oh, you should come and jam with us and see if the guys like you." And then it's kind of downhill from there, I guess.
So you've been with the band pretty much from the beginning, certainly from a sort of an album point of view.
Basically since the beginning.
That's amazing. There's seen some, I would say, some changes, but I suppose musically, it's kind of. Sorry, I'm looking down here because I've got the stack of albums here. I'm just sort of looking.
Nice.
Certainly, when you get as far as Virus, the last one, this is really quite a heavy album in comparison to, I suppose, Aquarius. And there's moments on Aquarius, when I first listened to that it sounded like it's, I don't know, Peter Gabrielish in places, or Genesis-y, and all sorts of weird things going on. So I didn't see that coming, and the evolution of the music has been not crazy, because it's been a gradual build. But if you went from the first one to the last one, you could probably still recognise it as being Haken, but there's a big difference. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's just a kind of natural thing, isn't it? When you're making music, we released Aquarius in 2010, released Virus, 10 years apart, and I guess, I mean, it's partly changing of members, it's partly changing of musical tastes, it's probably mostly down to just kind of developing the art of songwriting that we've always been working to get better at, and each time you sort of finish an album and you look back and you think, okay, what can I sort of do differently next time, and still try and maintain that sort of Haken sound. But that's just a natural progression, I guess, for any band. You'd hope.
Do you have a favourite album out of the ones you've done?
It's tricky, to be honest. They really are kind of all my favourite in some way or another. They all represent different stages of my own musical journey and the band's musical journey, and I don't know. I honestly couldn't pick. I mean, I'm terrible at picking favourites anyway. When anyone asks, "What's your favourite song? What's your favourite band? What's your favourite film?" I just can never answer that question. But honestly, I'm sort of equally proud of everything we've put out, and just put everything into it that I could at the time. And
I suppose it's a bit like trying to sort of choose your favourite baby, isn't it, or favourite child?
I guess so. Yeah.
But no, you should be proud of them, and it's a silly thing for me to say. You don't want me to tell you that, but you already really are. But I just think they are absolutely immense, absolutely brilliant. How do you sort of go about the sort of whole songwriting process? Is it sort of as a band as a whole, or is it one person has an idea and brings it in and you jam around it, or is it sort of put together in a studio with different bits of songs? So actually, this bit will work with here. We chop that bit, take that, and like Yes did, didn't they? Sort of with Close to the Edge, with sort of lots of different things. They sort of stuck them all together.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could say we kind of did that a little bit with most recently Messiah Complex. Which is very much, a suite of short songs that kind of make up one big song. But from the early days, it was mostly Richard, especially with Aquarius and Visions. I mean, he predominantly wrote those albums, and kind of presented sketches of each song, and then shared them with the rest of us. And then we would meet up on a weekly basis and just jam them through and work on vocal lines, work on finessing the arrangements, and then work on our own individual parts, and kind of take it from there. But then I think, even on the Mountain, we started to get a little bit more collaborative from the initial compositional point. I think there's one or two songs on there that were started by other members of the band, and then taken on by everyone else. And then sort of by the time we got to Affinity, I think we basically decided amongst us that we were each going to try and contribute maybe one or two songs each. So I guess that's when there's a bit more of an explosion in kind of diversity, you could say, just because you've got more of us kind of contributing at a very early stage compositionally. And we've kind of tried to keep that approach ever since. Partly because we try to keep everything as equal as we can anyway as a band. We always have, even when Richard was the main songwriter. But I think when Richard was, he probably felt, I don't know, like maybe there was too much responsibility on his shoulders, or
pressure.
Yeah, or maybe I think probably there's a part of him as well that perhaps wanted us to be more collaborative, because he felt that if he kind of sort of wrote all the initial music, he would not necessarily enjoy the process of us kind of changing it all. You know, you get quite attached
to
your music. And I think perhaps there was a part of him that wanted everyone to start feeling that as well, so that we could appreciate the whole collaborative nature of it. But yeah, I mean, I think the process seems to be working pretty well at the moment.
You can certainly hear Haken, the early Haken sound in Richard's solo record, the Cocoon, which is, when I first listened to that, I was like, oh, that's Haken. It's the Haken sound. It is sort of all over it, and actually, it's obvious it is, because I know Richard wrote so much of that material, certainly at the beginning stage.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and there are actually elements of the stuff on that album that were early Haken ideas that, for whatever reason, just didn't get developed. Either we couldn't fit them into a song, or he wasn't particularly fond of them at the time. The same even goes for the Nova Collective stuff. I don't know if you heard Nova Collective at all. I
know of them. I've not actually sort of delved into it yet.
Yeah, well, there's one particular song on their album. The very first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh my god, this is like pre-Aquarius, this tune." I remember working on it. We used to jam this particular song. I mean, you know, it was a completely different song back then, but the kind of initial idea that the song then takes off from, we used to jam that song on a weekly basis for ages, and we just kept hitting a wall. We could never get anywhere with it. It was like, where do we go next? We've got like a minute or two of this tune, and it's just not going anywhere. And then lo and behold, probably about 8 to 10 years later, the Nova Collective guys just completely transform it into just an amazing kind of jazz fusion beast.
Excellent. So isn't that the bass player from
Between the Buried and Me?
That's it. Yeah,
Dan. Yeah,
and Richard and who
yeah,
else is it?
and the keyboard player is Pete, the guy I was telling you about earlier.
Oh wow, okay,
yeah,
okay. So when he left Haken, what did he go off and do? Is that what he then started? Was the Nova Collective? Or
no, he kind of, he didn't give up music, but he gave up sort of pursuing it, you know, in a professional manner. And he went to study physics at Bristol University, and
as you do,
as you do, yeah. Despite everyone at school saying you have to do music, you're an absolute beast, he was like, "No, I'm going to go do physics." He did his undergrad. He did a postgrad. I don't know, where was it, Imperial, and then he did a doctorate at Southampton. So he's a doctor of physics now, you know.
Bright chap.
Yeah, pretty clever guy. Yeah, but no, he's kind of back on it now with the music. Now that he's got his doctorate, he's been doing lots of production. He's got quite a niche with his electronic music composition that he does, and yeah, he's working hard.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to tap him up, because that's kind of my thing as well. I write electronic stuff.
Okay, yeah. Well, his alias is Nested Shapes. If you want to check him out, it's really really interesting stuff. Yeah.
I'll definitely do that. Are you guys in the band? I mean, obviously you're friends, but do you sort of see each other socially, or is it literally just sort of business sort of stuff? You sort of is band time, or do you sort of go? I don't know if you can go. You can go in the pub now, but do you sort of meet up socially as well?
Yeah, I think if we were all closer together, we would definitely meet up more than we do. I'm way up in North London. Richard and Charlie are down in South London. Sometimes there's about 2 hours between us in terms of journey time, which can be a bit of a pain. Ross is down in Bournemouth, So again, that's another probably 3 hours for him.
Oh wow, okay.
And then Connor's over in North America, so he's definitely not local. But yeah, if we were all together, we'd be, or if we were all local to each other, we'd be meeting up all the time. I see Richard quite often. We're trying to arrange Christmas dinner plans at the moment
Awesome.
between his wife and my partner as well, and his kids. But yeah, no, we as I said, if we were more local, we'd definitely be. I mean, Richard and Ross were schoolmates as well, actually. That's kind of how they kicked things off in the early days, and their other good friend Matthew, who was one of the other original guitarists. So yeah, definitely all friends.
There's been, I have to ask the question, I know, because it's obviously quite recent. There's been, you just sort of talked about there's been lineup changes throughout. But it's a bit sad about Diego going. It must be sort of, did you see it coming, or was it sort of a flash out of the blue?
I mean, as he said in his statement, it's kind of the old, I guess the old cliche of creative differences, and I mean, it kind of, there's always disagreements when you're making music. It's very difficult for everyone to kind of agree on everything, especially when there's 6 of us, and especially when we're writing in such a collaborative way. I have so many moments when we're writing music where I resent the other guys, and I'm like, this is, there's always going to be creative differences, I guess. But, Diego has to prioritize what he wants to do.
Of course.
All credit to him for doing that.
Yeah, and obviously you now be on the look for sort of where you go next. So bringing sort of someone else, I guess, in to do the keyboardy bits.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that'll be a big sort of auditioning and rehearsal thing because you'll be touring, I guess, next year, won't you? Yeah,
I mean the plan. God, just knocked something down. The plan is to be touring basically from the beginning of February. Basically filling up the whole of Feb, actually going around Europe. Couple of weeks off, and then hopefully some more of Europe, which we haven't announced yet. And then we've got Symphony X tour. Sort of, I think that's a co-headline in North America. Shortly after that, hopefully some festivals, and then some more touring later in the year. So yeah, it's going to be a busy year. I think there is a little bit concerned at this point, though, with the latest developments with COVID.
Yeah, sure.
About what's going to happen early next year, given that we're supposed to be touring then. So we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed at this point. But honestly, I couldn't say.
That's kind of the only thing you can do is just keep your fingers crossed. There's nothing else we as mortals can do about it. I know. It is bigger than all of us. It's a tricky thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are you playing now? What drums are you playing? What's your kit?
I've been playing Natal drums now for a good few years. Let's see, I guess since we were touring Affinity was when I first sort of started working with Natal. And I haven't changed a whole lot in terms of my setup since then. So I mainly play a Birch kit of theirs, a Natal Originals Birch. It's the kit that I've recorded the last 2 albums on with Haken.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to also tour it for the first time. It's never been out on the road before.
Oh, really?
I was hoping to tour it for the upcoming tours. At least over here, probably not in North America. I've got another Natal kit over there, but so it's I guess size wise is an 8, 10, 12 racks and then 16 floor. I kind of chop and change between using a 13 and a 14 as my main snare. Mm-hmm. At the moment, I'm mainly playing Angel snare drums. I don't know if you've come across them. They're a small sort of Hungarian.
I know the name, but I don't know the drums at all. Yeah,
the drums are really, really stunning drums. Really enjoying playing those. And then Samson cymbals, who are again, I guess one of the smaller cymbal brands. They're made in Samsun in Turkey. Again, I've been working with them since around that time. I think earlier actually I started working with them around the mountain restoration time.
Okay.
And yeah, beautiful handmade Turkish cymbals. Can't get enough of them really.
That's great. I mean, it's so nice to actually sort of hear that you're using not the same. You're not using Zildjian, you're not using Sabian or Pasty like everybody does, and you're not on Yamaha or Pearl exports or DWs like everybody else is. It's absolutely doing your own thing and making the sound that you want to make using the instruments that you need to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the really nice things about working with the companies that I do, I guess, is, because they're not the enormous big names that everyone's used to seeing, I kind of feel like I'm on their radar all the time, and they're always willing to stick an arm and a leg out for me and just help me at every possible point. So I don't kind of get lost in the big sea of big artists. And so it's really nice actually to have that kind of connection with these companies for sure.
Excellent. And you use quite a lot of electronics as well. So is that, do you use triggers or is it pads?
For a little bit I was using just a kick and snare trigger, and it was purely just for a couple of moments on Affinity because we have that whole 80s thing going on, especially with one particular song, as you know. Because I wasn't using it, predominantly enough, didn't really necessarily see the point in keeping those particular triggers part of the setup. But yeah, the main thing that I use electronically is the Roland SPDSX.
A little rack of pads, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got 9 pads. I basically just use it to trigger samples that I've created for specific points in specific songs. Again, in 1985, a few other points on Affinity, and then a few points on Vector. There's a couple of points on Virus as well. So yeah, it's definitely kind of slowly worked its way in as a kind of integral part of the kit. Really, I can't do without that particular thing when we're playing live at all. Really. Yeah.
Cool. What should I be listening to? That's kind of my next question. What would you suggest is the next good thing to be listening to?
Just in general.
Yeah.
I've had an album on constant rotation for the last, 2-3 weeks. I guess I've had a band on constant rotation for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm in a very chill period at the moment. I'm sure you already know them well. Elbow.
Oh, I know Elbow. Yeah.
I think we're all big fans of Elbow in Haken, but I was lucky enough to catch them with Richard. Actually, we went to go and see them at Hammersmith Apollo. A month or two ago.
Okay.
And it was part of a bunch of postponed shows, and I think they were initially supposed to be playing in the O2. So just being able to see them at the Apollo was just amazing, because obviously it's a fraction of the size. It was still kind of early enough in things opening back up that the crowd wasn't particularly dense. So we were, fairly near the front with not many people even near us. And it was just an absolute joy to see them play. I mean, Guy, the singer, he's just high on life when he's on stage. He's so happy to be there, and he's so great with the crowd. It's like, yeah, he could be your best mate.
Yeah. I've seen Elbow a couple of times. I saw them at quite a big show, which was Wembley Stadium, I think. Not Wembley Stadium, Wembley Arena. The SSE Arena, whatever it's called now. But I saw them there 8 or 9 years ago, and I've also saw them at a festival. I think it was Latitude. They played on the main stage there. They are absolutely brilliant. I love them. Absolutely love them. And you're right, Guy Garvey's got such a unique presence on stage. Yeah. And his voice is one of the only people who can actually sing in his native accent. So not only does he talk in it, but he sings Mancunian.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
And it's just the smoothest voice. I mean, at no point does he ever kind of offend the ear. It's just like it's like cream in the ears, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just so good.
That album from, I think it was 8, 9, 10 years ago, Seldom Seen Kid, is just one of my favourite records from that period of time. I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Yeah.
I've been listening. Yeah, the main album I've been listening to recently. I know they just released a new one. I'm still I'm still getting into it. I find the thing with Elbow is I have to listen to their albums quite a few times, and then suddenly it clicks, and it's the best album of all time for me. Suddenly, just at that point. But yeah, the previous one, Giants of All Sizes, is the one that I'm really loving at the moment.
I need to get that. I haven't listened to that one, so I shall go and find that up and add it to the list. So
definitely go check it out.
Yeah. With that, I think we shall wrap things up. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Where can people find you? Do you want me to put a link so people can find you for drum lessons and stuff like that? Or,
absolutely, yeah. And I'm always happy to kind of free up some time where I can. So yeah, I mean, you can hit me up on Facebook, Ray Hearne Music, I guess.
Yeah.
I think on Instagram I'm at Ray Haken. You can send an email as well to ray@hakenmusic.com. So yeah, any of the above, just send me a message. Don't hesitate if you want a lesson or you want to hook up and get some drum notation books that I've got.
Yes, I've seen that.
Well.
I should have talked about those. The transcriptions of all the drum parts from the albums. They're a good thing. Yeah. So
yeah,
great. Well, thank you, as I say, and all that stuff will be in the description below. And if you like what you hear and want to find out more, go and get Haken's music, 'cause it's awesome. It really is. And as I say, to chat to Ray, he'll be more than willing to talk to you and to offer his pearls of wisdom about how to do his drumming and all that good stuff. So there we are. We'll leave it there. So until next time, this is Jim over and out.
See ya.